All right, so I'm here with Josh Nealis of Cutthroat Comics. Good morning, good evening, Josh. Are you there?
Hello. Yeah, are we doing this over the phone? Is
Yeah.
that what we're doing?
Well, live is a black screen, so I'm just going to record you audio on Audacity so I can interview you, and then I'll edit in your video and images and so on from your Kickstarter afterwards.
Well, right on. Yeah, whatever you want to do.
Okay, so that's Josh Nealis of Cutthroat Comics. Please tell everyone the Josh Nealis Cutthroat Comics story.
Yeah, so we're based out of Ohio, which is in the United States, for those that don't know that. We're an indie publishing company. We've been going since 2015, so we're 9 years in. We've released, I don't know, like 26 books and comics and stuff. I've lost count, somewhere around there.
That's a lot.
No, it's more than that. 28, 29, somewhere around there.
Are they ongoing series or graphic novels or?
Yeah, so, I mean, a lot of it's just my stuff, since I own the company, everything I do gets greenlit, so I can just release what I want, but, yeah, I've done personally 14 comic books, and then I've published 2 other comic books for other creative teams. Then I've done a bunch of novels and, some kids books, some self-help books, and it's all different stuff. The current comic book that's about to come out is Turkey Sharks, which is kind of like my Avengers. It's all my comic characters rolled into one.
Turkey Sharks.
But that one,
is that right?
Yeah,
Turkey
that
Sharks.
Yeah, the Turkey Sharks. It makes sense if you read the books on why they're called that and stuff. But yeah, it's I was thinking about it last night, and really, it's just this series, the Turkey Sharks 1 through 5, and it ends at 5 right now. It's kind of my love letter to comics. I grew up reading comics and stuff as a kid, and when I was thinking about it, I was like, man, it's like everything I loved about comics is in these books.
What did you love about comics? What is it that really influenced you? What were your favorite comic books and so on?
I mean, I'm almost 43 years old, so I was a kid in the 90s. I grew up watching Spider-Man and X-Men on Saturday mornings and whatnot. And then, of course, the comics I read were Spider-Man and X-Men and a bunch of other ones too, but mostly those ones. So, and then, of course, Batman and all that stuff too. There's DC in there as well. But, my comics are very influenced by, not only that era of comics, but everything I grew up on, Three Ninjas, like the movies, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and all that. It's very pop culture heavily influenced stuff. So when you read these Turkey Sharks comics, there's fighting and drama and romance and all that kind of stuff, but there's also a bunch of silliness and snarky comments and silly humor and stuff too.
So I'm looking, there's a red-headed man with a beard. There's a fairly buxom brunette. There's a little boy in a sailor suit. There's another lady in a hat. Is that an alien, a female alien of some kind? Or
yeah, that's Mark with a C. She was leader of the Rebellion Green Aliens on Tau Ceti E, which was the planet where kind of the leader of the Turkey Sharks, like, he had his own series. It was a 3-issue series, and he was kidnapped by the Cetis and forced into slavery, and she rescued him and stuff. And then like the squirrel that's on the cover there, they both had the same like super serum that was injected into them, so they can talk to basically any species, and they're super strong on Earth and everything. It's a whole scientific thing,
cool,
like comics do.
And there's I think a person of color in a silver suit with a visor. Is that right?
Yeah, that's so I named him Stingray. Like, I created that character in like 6th grade.
Ah, cool.
So yeah, I didn't realize there was a Stingray already in comics at the time.
Ah, dude, you're always going to run into that. I wouldn't worry about that. Don't sweat the details.
Yeah. So, but I've named him Stinger now anyway. So we've changed his name in his suit throughout the comics.
It's a shame you got to do that sometimes. I don't think most people are that obnoxious. And the one I always use as the example is Swamp Thing and Man Thing. I mean, come on. But
well,
yeah,
Lynn Wein and Ra Wolfman, is that who created Man Thing? I can't remember.
Yeah,
they were roommates at the time.
That's
I just learned this, and I haven't fact checked it, but yeah, they were roommates, and that's why the two characters came out almost at the same time.
Yeah, and really, Man Thing looks like the Heap, and Swamp Thing acts like the Heap. They're both, and I don't mean this as a slam, because I really like both characters. I loved Man Thing and Howard the Duck when Gerber did them in the 70s, but they're both highly derivative of the Golden Age character, the Heap. So it's more about what you do with the ingredients rather than coming up with an entirely original recipe. Sometimes I think.
Yeah. I try to pride myself on. I mean, you're always going to have tidbits of things that have already happened or already been created, but I try to be as original as I can.
Sure.
So. Yeah, like for instance, Blasphemer is my gay Amish superhero. Like I'm pretty sure there's no other gay Amish superheroes in comics.
Yeah, I think you've cornered that market. Yeah,
at least I hope.
So, Tales of Shock and Terror. Is that current or is that an old series?
It's kind of an ode to the old EC comics.
Right.
So I actually. I edited and published that one for a creative team, which they're working on issue 2 now. I think it's almost done, which that'll be hitting Kickstarter at some point. But it's 3 short horror stories inside of a comic book, and it's really cool. If you like Tales from the Crypt and things like that, that would be for anybody. Yep.
That's one for the horror fans, guys and ghouls.
Cocaine Stripper Stronghold.
Yep. It's one of my best sellers. You can imagine. We're actually we've already started. That's a novel. It's like a raunchy comedy.
Okay.
Where a horde of zombie businessmen and a biker gang attack a brothel because, of course, they like cocaine and strippers. It's really funny. It's got a lot of Mad Max in it, a little bit, a lot of influence from that.
Beauty, mate.
Yeah, and what's that movie From Dusk Till Dawn? It has that influence in it as well. But it's really funny. It's really raunchy, but it sells so well. I knew I couldn't let it die with just that novel. So we've already started on issue 1 of a comic book series, a 4-part comic series, prequel actually.
Turkey Sharks, Josh Nealis, and is it Cristiano Rena?
Yep, Cristiano's the main artist on all of my comic books. He lives in Italy somewhere.
So I'm looking at issue 2. It has a well-built man, very thick thighs, on top of a carriage, which is operated by what looks like an Amish man in a pink top, holding a 2x4, and the cart is pulled by a unicorn.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's I challenge anybody's creativity to match mine.
That would make a hell of a custom action figure. Not gonna lie.
But yeah, that's the gay Amish superhero. That's Blasphemer. The unicorn is named Harvey. Blasphemer is a little bit like He-Man. He raises that wood in the air and turns into Blasphemer. And of course, his horse and buggy turns into a unicorn and all that.
So what's Blasphemer's powers?
I mean, he's strong and stuff. I don't really focus on powers so much, really. It's more just about how, their character and how silly they are and all that. I mean, all my heroes have the same basic thing. They're stronger, faster, and all that. Except for Ginger Avenger, which is the redheaded guy. He can suck people's souls out of their bodies.
Okay. Do you have an overall, I mean, the buzzwords, but do you have an overall universe and a continuity for all of your stories? Do they all take place in Brothel City or in the same universe, or is it just come as you are? Maybe they cross over, maybe they don't.
Yeah, it's mostly all the comic books aside from Tales of Shock and Terror, which I mean I guess that could take place in Brothel City, but that all takes place in Brothel City. even when you get into some of my novels, like my children's book series, I don't say Brothel City in it, but there are descriptions of places that are in the comics and stuff. Stuffed Squirrels and Porcelain Angels also takes place in Brothel City. Hellscape, which is my trilogy novel, takes place 400 years in the future in Brothel City. And then I think I even allude in Cocaine Stripper Stronghold. I even think I mention it somehow, but it's definitely not in the city. It's somewhere in that same universe, though.
Okay. And what is Brothel City? Is it inspired by a specific place from your own life, or is it just have you put it together so that it suits the stories, or is it helping you to dictate what the stories are? Like, is Brothel City is Brothel City a character in its own right, like Gotham City?
Yeah, it's kind of its own thing. It's kind of, I know we've taken some of the, like, over the years, when I send in the pages and stuff to Cristiano to draw, I'll give him visual examples and stuff. And, I've used like Cleveland, Ohio and Columbus, Ohio. But, because Stinger is, he has an underwater base in the Atlantic Ocean.
Oh, how cool
I
is
kind of
that?
had to make it kind of, yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of, if I had to place it, like Boston would be where it maybe was at, but
Okay.
I've never even been to Boston, so I don't really say it's based on Boston. But that's where I imagine it's at. Something like Gotham and Metropolis and all that kind of stuff.
So obviously, with a name like Brothel City, it's a mean city, right?
No, it's actually named that because there's a lot of soup factories.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing's ever what it seems in my universe.
Well, that's cool. That's fresh. I think a lot of '90s kids turned comic book creators, artists, or especially writers. They can't avoid the trap of the derivative characters. What they really want to do is create fan fiction of TMNT or Spider-Man or X-Men. So that's fine. That's valid. But pastiche, to me, no matter how well executed, and it can be executed extremely well, is inferior to original creativity. And from what I've seen of your work, it's very original. Obviously infused with and influenced by the 90s, but to me, you've really gone the extra mile and achieved some interesting things, because I'm just sort of going through all of them now for the interview, and it's quite stunning, really. Like a real undiscovered gem, I hope, for some people who may not have stumbled across you yet. Because
thanks, I appreciate that.
Oh, look, I'm
that's
giving it to you straight from the hip, because I see a hell of a lot of comics, and a lot of them can be very well drawn, let's say, but I don't know whether I need the 5 millionth TMNT ripoff.
right.
I'm probably good for TMNT for the next 500 or 600 years, whereas like Blasphemer, to me that's just really cool. Like
yeah, he was meant to be kind of a throwaway character, but Cristiano and myself liked him so much that we were like, no, he's in.
It's always the way. I've had that with animation, where you just put somebody in as just literally a throwaway, like a walk-on character, and everybody's clawing their eyes out wanting to see more of that, and you're sort of, for crying out loud, that don't you want to know about the main story? And they just kind of, no, not really. So I think you got to give the audience what they want.
Yeah, it's I think as a creator, especially now where we're at in time, you have to operate under the assumption that whatever you're going to come up with has been done. So I challenge myself when I have an idea. I'm like, okay, how can I make it more of whatever it is? Okay, so these are superheroes. How can I be more superhero-y in a way? But I also really care much. I never, as much as superpowers are great and all that, it's more about the characters and all that. And so like Ginger Avenger, he doesn't always look like that. He started off like a scrawny little archaeologist guy, and he finds this cave, and you find out that King Arthur and Robin Hood were superheroes, and this guy is like kind of the new version of that.
Cool.
But also because he doesn't look like how he always looks, he's changed now. Like, that would mess with your mind. You look in the mirror and you don't see the person that you saw for 25, 30 years, however old he is.
Yeah.
And then, he goes through depression and alcoholism, which, I mean, that's all been done before, but not by me and not with, this character in these circumstances and stuff. But, we also have his little sidekick is Zebo, the drunk homeless robot, who's kind of an enabler. And he ends up marrying a prostitute named Cheryl. So, it's and Zebo, he talks like a guy from the 50s. So he's always like, gee willikers, fellas, and all that. So it's, you just take it to a different level. Like what sets us apart from everything else that's out there? Because there is a lot of stuff out there that's, just like it and just as good.
Well, I admire what you're doing in terms especially of the originality, because it is very original stuff. It's almost like old school heavy metal, some of the illustrations, especially with the sort of alien content. It's really nice. It's really cool. And like I said, there's just so many 90s clones. You're not a 90s clone at all. Anybody looking at your stuff is going to see so much fresh stuff. And I really think fresh is where it's at for indies. You're never going to be able to compete with larger publishers. I wouldn't say major publishers, because I don't think any comic publisher is a major publisher anymore. DC and Marvel are storyboard and trademark farms. They're not, Now there's a character. It looks like a voodoo doll being held in a blood-stained hand, with a pin being put into it. And there's this man with like a skull face, and he's wearing a blue hat with a big pin through it with a Star of David on it. So what's his story?
Okay, so that's a new character. That was his first appearance. That's Turkey Shark's 4. That's the Tyler J. Haddock's variant cover, actually. And that's Mordecai Domingo, which I've had that name in my head because, like, I used to work in food service, and you have to put stickers on things, and the stickers, they'd have English and then they'd have Spanish. So it would say Sunday and then it would say Domingo. And I was like, man, that's a cool word. Domingo,
Yeah.
And so that character that's the voodoo doll is Pedo Man, which is like super satire. He's very like Mel Brooks, Family Guy, Monty Python. Like he's makes fun of the genre of superheroes like that character does.
Okay.
But so Mordecai wants Pedo Man's clothing because part of his superpowers is his clothing makes him super. Okay. It's a whole thing.
Okay.
But Mordecai wanted those clothes, and Pedo Man ended up with them. So, I mean, he's kind of a cliche voodoo guy. Like, he can turn into mist, and he talks all Cajun and stuff, which is actually kind of hard to write. But at the same time, there's a light funniness to him because he is in my comics and stuff. And yeah, I love that cover. That cover came out great.
And do you think that the humor is important?
Yeah, I mean, everybody can, I guess not everybody, but comics to me should be fun. And there's nothing wrong with doing like a serious, dark comic or anything like that. But there's a lot of that. And to me, like, I think it was like Stan Lee said something along the lines of like, create the things that you would want to see.
Yes.
And that's what I do. I would want something, if I'm going to read a comic, I want it to be fun first before anything else. And I think that's what I've done. I think my comics are fun.
And have you influenced a team? Like, do you have regular contributors or people that you work with who you inspire so that they come to you with characters and settings? Or are you more the sole visionary in your publishing?
I mean, right now, these are all my characters. And Cristiano has helped, make them a reality. But yeah, I mean, I've worked with a bunch of different cover artists and stuff. And then, like I said, I run a publishing company. So we're hoping to publish more work for other people other than me.
Right.
Not necessarily to build out my universe, but they can maybe create their own. And like I said, we got Tales of Shock and Terror. I did a vampire book a while back. I'm hoping to get a manga pretty soon. We'll see if that pans out or not. So
okay. And who's going to do the manga? A recognized mangaka or a new guy or girl or?
It's a new team. I'm not gonna quite promote it yet because the contract isn't signed.
Gotcha.
But once it does, we'll get it out there.
And will you slot that into your
we're always working and
quote unquote universe or not?
I don't know. I haven't decided on that yet. I would say right now it'll be its own separate thing. You know, if there's a crossover at some point, then that'd be cool. You know, if we have an idea that sounds good, you know, I'm not just gonna make something to make something. I have to have an idea that I believe in. You know, so
Gotcha.
I'm not saying yes or no on that just yet.
Fair enough. Well, to me though, again, there's a lot of people who fanboys turned fan fiction writers turned publishers, and I'm not saying you're one of them because you certainly don't seem to be, but they sort of want to be Stan Lee, so everything has to be crushed into the same universe. And I think you're better off sometimes discovering, in quotes, that they're in the same universe. So you just write a story, how are you going to write it, you know, whatever it is, and it turns out, oh well, the street from that story could actually be in that setting or not. So this sort of I'm the new Stan Lee, it's all going to get crushed into the one setting. I think that's incredibly limited.
Yeah, I don't fully come out and say, you know, everything's connected in the books and stuff. Like for instance, in the children's books, the main girl Judy goes to a park and it's called Martha Armstrong Park. And then in Pedo Man and Kid Friendly 1, I think.
Hang on.
Go to that park and you see the
hang on. Whoa. Pedo Man and Kid Friendly.
Right. That's my Batman and Robin.
Oh boy. Oh dear. Well, congratulations for going for it with that pair.
Yeah, that's the guy with the that's the guy with the glasses and the mustache, and then Kid Friendly is the kid in the sailor outfit. He's the sidekick.
Oh my lord. So do you have trouble with
it's like
classification and censorship or not?
No, not really. You know, people give me dirty looks from time to time, but generally once they walk over, you know, and I know what they're looking at. I know the look on their face at cons. I'm like, I know what you're looking at. Come over and take a look. Once they do, they're usually very surprised and they end up laughing. Because it's just dumb. It's not, you know, anything malicious or anything creepy or weird. It's just, it makes fun of the genre of superheroes.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, you've got Batman who's had all these child sidekicks and stuff, and it's like, that's kind of weird that a grown man's just adopting all these kids and all that.
Yeah.
So, and I took that idea and I ran with it, and I made it ridiculous.
Cool.
Yeah, so like, for instance, like Pedo Man, like he's just a normal guy, but to turn into Pedo Man, he has to say his code word like Shazam does, so he has to say Ralph Macchio.
So I just want to say, for the purposes of YouTube and any other censorious outlets, this is all parody and comedy. No one here is committed to that alternate lifestyle in any way, shape or form. And it's just funny. It's not meant to be serious.
Yeah, I definitely... Yeah, I poke fun at that from time to time. I'll make a joke about, you know, if something happens... I can't say that I've made fun of Kevin Spacey, but stuff like that. Like I would make fun of Kevin Spacey or Bill Cosby. We've made fun of Bill Cosby, like all those kinds of things. Yeah,
fair enough too. They invite ridicule by their behaviour. In fact, they invite much worse than ridicule, don't they? Interesting. Yep. So, do you have a current website or sales outlet? Where can people go to actually find your stuff?
Yeah, it's Cutthroat Comics. Yeah, cutthroatcomics.com. I've only ever done one international physical sale.
Right.
So I'm not sure exactly how all that works.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was expensive to to mail it. That's for sure.
Would you compile them into graphic novels
That was
and
over
then?
to England.
Gotcha. Would you compile them into graphic novels and then mail them internationally as graphic novels, collecting your issues, do you think, or published through Lulu or something?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't quite figured that out yet. You know, we're still growing and all that, and I haven't really had too much demand for it just yet. And, you know, not that I wouldn't be happy to figure it out for somebody. Like I said, you know, the one guy lived in England, and, you know, we got it squared away. We figured it out and stuff. But,
Yeah.
I mean, if anybody ever wants something internationally, they can, you know, shoot me an email and we'll figure it out one way or the other.
Okay. Cool. So,
and of course, digital.
Yeah.
We can do digital, obviously.
And that's got to be worldwide.
Yeah. I don't really do a lot of digital sales, really, and maybe that's my fault for not having it, you know, easily and readily available. I guess could be a shortcoming of mine for sure.
Oh, that's interesting. So you really focus on physical comics.
Yeah, I do a lot of cons, typically. So that's where I do the very bulk of my sales is through cons and meeting people. And that's what I enjoy about doing this. Is getting out there and showing my work to people and all that, and interacting and getting it directly in their hands. So yeah, I think some of the comics are available digitally through Lulu. But I don't remember which ones offhand. Some of the earlier ones, probably.
Well, that is absolutely fascinating, because that really genuinely makes you an outlier in terms of the indies I normally cross the path of, because a lot of them go hell for leather on digital, and as much as they'd love to make physical sales, the prohibitive cost of printing and delivery just makes them throw up their hands and give up. Fascinating that you stick to physical. So who are other indies that you normally interact with, like at the conventions or online? Do you have a sort of crowd that you hang with, or?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. You know, I have a bunch of friends that are in the business and stuff, and we converse about things from time to time.
Okay.
You know, Finish Line Comics, which he lives on the other side of the country from me.
No.
But he and I talk. In Lone Wolf Comics, Rob over there at Lone Wolf does a great job with things. Dirk Manning, who has worked with like Twisted and Arn Anderson and all these other people. So yeah, I mean, I have plenty of friends in and around that I can converse with, and you know, we go out to eat and stuff when we do cons and stuff.
So there's a sort of, I'm not even going to mention them or give them the slightest airtime really, but there's a sort of quite extreme group of so-called indies who are crowdfund carnival barkers, and I'm not going to refer to them any further, but they have this conventional wisdom that old-fashioned comics are dead, people have betrayed them, woke is killing it, blah, 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 and they go further than that and sort of say that a lot of them are getting very despairing and pessimistic, saying comics are dead. Now, personally, I haven't really found that. There's actually more indies than ever, and there's lots of high-quality indies. Now, the indies don't necessarily sell even in the thousands, but the economic model's being used as such that the people can actually continue making them for as long as they feel like it. So what's your personal experience and view on the health of American comic books and indie comic books in particular?
You know, to be honest, I don't, as much as I want comics to succeed, I want to see everybody succeed, you know?
Of course.
I try to stay out of the politics of all that. Like I said, I'm gonna make the books that I want to make.
Yep.
And if people don't like them, then fine, don't buy them. If you do like them, great, that's awesome.
But is your economic model sustainable for you? Like, can you continue doing what you're doing?
So, I mean, I still have my day job and stuff. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, I hope to eventually grow this to where I'm doing it, and I think it is possible.
Yep.
So really, you know, I'm not too much concerned on the state of comics as a whole, as much as, don't get me wrong, I love comics. I want comics to be awesome and continue and all that.
Yeah.
You know, but I can only worry about myself.
Okay.
and my team and the people I publish for. So as long as we're growing and progressing and putting out what I believe is good content, I mean, that's all I care about, really.
I really think the smaller focus, like you've just adverted to, I really do think that's the healthiest psychological and commercial approach to take, because it just seems very prideful, sort of arrogant and self-destructive to kind of, oh, I'm going to crusade and, you know, things are going to get set back the way they used to be kind of thing. Well, first of all, that presupposes that the way things used to be was good. But even if it was, and it's no longer good, which I don't automatically accept as a forced premise, but let's just, for the sake of argument, say, yeah, used to be good, now it's not. What on earth makes these people think that they'll have the slightest impact? And I mean, yes, they can point to, oh, well, you know, I got referred to on this news website or that news website. In terms of the general audience out there, I don't think any of them have made any impact. And I don't even mean that as a slam or to be disrespectful, but just keeping it real. I think you need to worry about your own stuff, or as my West Virginian ancestors would say, you kill your snakes and I'll kill mine. Just worry about your own patch of farmland. Don't go outside it for no reason. And to me, if you're doing comics as your full-time job or as a sideline, either way, you could not possibly genuinely have enough energy to spare to do that and also become a culture warrior in a culture war which in fact has long since already been won. So to me, I just think if you're going to do a political comic, great, do a political comic book. But to always try and infuse comic books with politics beyond the level of some social commentary when the spirit moves you, I just think is really counterproductive and dumb, and also not what people are really looking for. I mean, I'm a big fan of Steve Gerber, and he was highly political back in the 70s, but in a social commentary post, 1960s counterculture way. He was making horror stories which had a moral element to them, the sort of old-fashioned EC Comics horror parable kind of thing sometimes. And I think his fundamental appeal in his moral tales was to humanity. Now, I think that's a better way to go than like a specific political agenda which you're kind of selling out your audience to push. Some of the things you've mentioned in your comics, some people would definitely say are, whether you intend them to be, highly political, because you're taking a stance just by having that sort of parody character or that kind of funny character. But I get the feeling that you're not really shooting for that you're just having fun rather than pushing a particular political wheelbarrow. Would that be a fair comment, or are you more political than that?
Well, I mean, I don't know who said this, but I've heard other people say that art is political. So, but I mean, yeah, I don't make my comics to push any necessary agenda exactly. Although I definitely do a lot of like, if you're familiar with South Park,
yep,
how they'll have an episode that, they're making fun of something, but then there is that underlying like theme. So I do that from time to time, but generally, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and, I'm not going to make a comic book that's all like anti-Donald Trump or pro-Democrat or anti-Democrat or, I'm not doing that. I don't have any interest in doing that specifically. Like I said, man, I just want to make something that people can read and have fun with. There's plenty of things that are political. Let's have fun, and unwind and get away from that from time to time, which I don't know if you watched Supergirl, the show from the CW.
I tried to get into it. It just didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, I enjoyed the show, and a lot of the themes in the show are themes that I agree with. But even for me, being agreeing with what they're trying to say, even from time to time, I'm like, oh, okay, can we just have a fun show? Like, not everything has to be this big, stance and everything.
Yeah.
And from time to time, yes, that's okay. But like for me, and I would imagine other people agree, like sometimes you just want to sit down and watch a show and forget about all that nonsense, because that nonsense can really drag you down. So, I try to write fun things.
And I think the risk is when they try and be too political, it presupposes that their hot take is correct. And I don't just mean, I don't mean like the hot take is correct in terms of the political stance, but the basic analysis is correct. And, well, it may not be. Because at the end of the day, they're entertainers. They're not political scientists. Now, they may have delusions of being political scientists, or they may be marching in the parade for a certain group of people as allies. But you've still got to be careful doing that. I mean, you're buying into a political subculture, politicised subculture, where the ground shifts under your feet a lot. You can be loving and understanding of everybody, and I think that's a requirement on us as human beings. And you can even then rip the shit out of people and make fun of them. And hopefully all normative, sane people can cop being made fun of. And of course, Australians are legendary shit talkers, so I mean, my mob will always be like that. But the thing is, don't buy into it when you don't need to, because I think it damages a lot of stories when it's like, the point is this: the supervillain's meant to be Donald Trump. You've got to agree with that, or you're terrible. Well, because, you know, if you put that real world stuff in, you're dating your work so horribly badly. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely poke fun at things from time to time.
Sure. Yeah.
So again, like South Park, what I do is when I write these books, I will edit the dialogue and the jokes as we're going through.
Yeah.
All the way up to print almost. That way the jokes are as fresh as possible. So that I'm hitting, you know, at the right time with these things.
Yeah.
That way when somebody reads it and they read a joke, they're like, oh, that literally happened like a month ago. You know, that's awesome that they got that in there.
It fascinates me that you're print focused, because that's something that only print focused publishers would do. The digital market, they're always trying for this kind of immortal story where if you download it today, a year, 10 years time, it's the same ahistorical, relatively timeless story. But see, even going back to the 90s cartoons, they were actually of the moment. You know, like people joke about it. Extreme, you know, like Street Sharks and all of that. That's dated horribly, you could say. You know, the inline skating craze. But the point is it sort of hasn't, because it's so sweetly done. And because it wasn't so politically or current affairs focused, that the moment that the inline skating craze passes or whatever passes, it's done, it's gone. It's able to be appreciated as it is for what it is. But I'm absolutely fascinated by the revelation that you're print focused, because conventional wisdom among the crowdfunders is that that's literally a suicide note. But you see, you're proof of something that I've had as a contention, which is if you reach the target that you want with the margin that you've set, then you've succeeded, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's definition of success is different.
Yes.
Am I where I want to be yet? No, I'm not even close to where I want to be yet. But, you know, if 9 years ago when I started this company, you would have told me, like, you know, I've run 5 successful Kickstarters and sold literal thousands of books, I would be like, no way. You know what I mean? I'd be like, holy shit, did I really? So, yeah, I mean, even though I'm not doing this full time, like, it's been pretty successful. I mean, really.
Well, it sounds like it.
As opposed to, a lot of people, you know, and I pump out a lot of work too. You know, there's people I've seen at cons that they've had the same book for 9 years.
Oh,
and, you know,
don't even get me started about that. There are people waiting still for a book that they've paid in full for and paid a lot of money for, not naming names about the creators victimizing their customers like this. But there's people on Indiegogo who haven't released a book in 3 or 4 years, and they had all the money 3 or 4 years ago. That's just messed up right there.
Well, you know, and unfortunately, that's one of those things. I always think it's funny when somebody gets arrested because they stole $100. You know what I mean? To me, if I'm going to get arrested and risk jail, like, it's going to have to be like $1 billion. So that's the same thing. If you're going to rip people off, why would you rip people off for $3,000? You know what I mean? It just doesn't make sense to me. It's not enough to ruin your potential career over it.
Yeah, but also whether you're stealing $1 or, in one person's case, nearly $1 million on Indiegogo, a thief is a thief.
Yeah,
it's dishonest. If they can look at themselves in the mirror, they're a stone cold sociopath or worse, because a thief is a thief. And as it's said in the Sinbad film, a thief is a king until he is caught. But they always get caught in the end, one way or another. I don't think the law's coming after them because of some bullshit loophole on Indiegogo, but karma's going to catch them. And it just breaks their credibility in the end. I mean, there's a lot of dumb people out there who'll talk themselves into like, no, it's all, it's all good, it'll come, yeah, it's all fine. But not everybody's like that. And no matter how lovely and patient comic book fans are, and in general they are lovely. I mean, some people say comic book fans are toxic nerds, but that's not my general experience. And
sometimes, but yeah,
and they're patient people. I think a lot of the toxic fandom in comics, people take their cue from the creators they follow. So if you have a creator who's become an ideological warrior, that gives the fans permission to become what I would consider to be abusive. Whereas if you've got a creator who's like, look, just calm down, man. Okay, we're talking about fucking funny books, so just relax, okay? It's not worth busting.
I don't spend too much time. And I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. I don't have time to like post on social media about negative things anymore. It's not, I'm going to post about the things I like.
Yeah.
If I don't like it, then you'll never hear me talk about it, because why? What's the point?
Well said.
And as far as comics go, obviously the big topic right now is AI, and I've added to our contracts, with creative teams, that there will be no AI. And that's more just from an artistic standpoint. We hire artists because we love human creation. If somebody wants to use AI, that's cool. Do your thing, but it's just, we're not going to do that.
Well, I mean, full disclosure, I use it to generate components for animation. I absolutely do not use it to substitute for original work.
Right.
If voice actors are too unreliable to employ, I've used AI voices sparingly in the past, because they pushed me to. But having said that, in more recent productions, I do all the male voices and I employ a single actress to do all the female voices. Occasionally, I might add a third performer, but that's a function of the unreliability of the voice acting so-called profession. It's not a desire to rat people out to AI, but in terms of people trying to sell an entire so-called comic book of so-called art when it's all AI generated, particularly AI porn and all of that kind of crapola, that's got no place in any artistic endeavor whatsoever, none whatsoever. And you're putting out of business a lot of small artists. Now, are those small artists ready for prime time? Not always, but I would still rather see a human being try and strive and triumph than feed a mega corporation, because it's the mega corporations behind all of those bloody AI software packages anyway.
Exactly.
It is. And long term, I believe the agenda is to put the small creators out of business. That's what the real agenda is, because the small creators go belly up or give up, and then the next thing you know, you've got much less choice. And that's just not cool in general. If people don't like a particular person's work, as far as I know, no one's holding them at gunpoint making them buy it. You can just find something else that you do like. Let 1,000 flowers bloom. 1,000 original flowers, not AI-generated flowers, bloom. So, rant over.
I have so many friends, and I'm a writer. I can't draw to save my life, and I respect their ability and the work they put into it. So for me, that's part of it. I would prefer to pay somebody to do it. That's just how I am. I want my friends to succeed along with me. And, if I got to pay them for their art, then I'm happy to do that.
Well, it's a thing of mine I came up with years ago, and I've done it in different formats over the years, called fire syndrome. And I paraphrased George Washington. So the original is fire is a good servant and a bad master. And mine is technology is a good servant but a bad master. Fire syndrome. So fire syndrome means if you let technology stop being a servant and become the master, it will spread like fire and it will destroy. And AI is illustrating fire syndrome perfectly. Oh, I'll just use AI. Oh, I'll just use AI. I'll just use AI. It kills off human spirit and creativity. The AI is soulless. It's a thing of the clip-off. It's a thing of the Golem world, of the robot world, the soulless world. Don't let the soulless rule over those with souls. Humans have to be preeminent. Or the poem I always quote by D.H. Lawrence. People talk about the triumph of the machine. The truth is, the machine will never triumph. It can't. We create them. And despite, I can soon solve that.
Well, hey, I'll create an AI machine that can build other AI.
Well, that's great. But basic mathematical physics, if you could call mathematical physics basic, mathematics tells us, proper analysis tells us, you are losing energy and you are losing the creative spark at each step when you have machines make other machines. Copies of copies inevitably build in some entropy. So people thinking that machines can optimize and improve themselves, they're kidding themselves. They are kidding themselves. I can prove it mathematically, but just on the human common sense level, try 3D printing stuff. So get an original object, something from nature, something a human being created. Use laser scanning. 3D print it with the best 3D printer in the world. Stop. Take the thing you've 3D printed. Laser scan that. 3D print that. See how many iterations down the line you go before you're printing grey goop. And in comic books, using AI, it's exactly the friggin' same, because every comic book's going to look the same with the same weird-ass sausage fingers.
Yep, just like that movie Multiplicity, pretty much. If you ever seen that one with Michael Keaton in it?
Yep.
But, AI, it has its uses. Like, I've heard some interesting things that they're doing with it, like people who can't speak anymore, they're using AI to replicate their voice.
Oh, of course.
On a computer.
Look.
And they're using it to, like, decipher whale language or something like that.
Yep.
I mean, that's awesome.
Yep.
But that's not human creativity. That's doing something cool with it.
Fire syndrome, dude. It's a good servant and a bad master. As long as it's a servant. Riding a horse, very useful. Horse riding a man, less useful. So you've got to keep it in its lane. And I'm saying this as somebody who many years ago worked in robotics and expert system programming. We created one of the original AIs, God help us, an adaptive heuristic algorithm. And our innovation was programming it with an emotional index, so it would score everything it was told. Like, you could talk back and forth to it to educate it and it would gradually learn, but whatever you told it, it would give an emotional score to from -10 to +10. So in other words, it was creating likes and dislikes to create goal seeking. And that's something that all AI, real AI, now incorporates. The other shitty thing about AI in comics is the work from which they are basing it is other people's damn work.
Right.
AI isn't creating things from scratch using harmonic analysis. It's just ripping other people's pictures off. God damn it. That's wildly wrong. And it won't be too much longer before the writing AI takes over.
Yep, I've already heard of people using that, and to me that it's like
hell no.
I'm trying to remember the quote. I can never remember exactly how it went, but it was something about, like, if a human didn't take the time to create it, then it doesn't deserve to be created, or something along those lines.
Look, until some horrifying future time when the human-machine hybrid is legit, which it never will be in my opinion, and I'm saying that as somebody who used to build robots for a living. So my inside track is telling me you can forget that nonsense. Medical intervention.
Yep.
Our medicine is entirely Victor Frankenstein. It's technological intervention to analogize, duplicate, and improve biological systems. The improve part is where you get the Frankenstein story from. As Victor Frankenstein says, we humans are not very well designed. I've made many improvements. No, Victor, you haven't. You haven't. You're still a butcher. You're a skilled butcher, but you're a butcher. So cyborgs per se, yeah, here and there, definitely. But that's a very long-term path to improvement. This wholesale chop and change AI is just going to devastate the arts, completely devastate the arts. Now, to me, part of the problem is the shift from freeborn citizens to consumers. And yeah, this is another rant. I'll make it brief. When people shift to being consumerist, uncritical consumers of any form of product, that opens the door to AI because they just want a quick hit. So they don't really care whether somebody's lovingly drawn the female form or an AI's just cranked one out. It's appealing to their base nature. And that's true in AI-generated superheroes too. They're not appreciating the artistry of a human artist anymore. Now, is this making you and me a pair of Grandpa Simpson dinosaurs? Well, I'd hope not. I don't think that war is lost yet. But people need to push back hard or you will lose that war, my friends. You will lose that war.
Yep, 100%.
And are we going to win? Well, I hope so. Is it guaranteed? No, it's not. So, what's next for Josh Nealis and Cutthroat Comics? You got your Kickstarter, which I'll put in the description. What else is going on?
A bunch. We've got Tales of Shock and Terror 2 hopefully coming out pretty soon. My next novel, I'm a little over halfway done with it. It's called The Bro Code. It's a romantic comedy from the male point of view, because we need more male point of views in the world, I feel.
Amen.
We don't have enough of it. And then Cocaine Stripper Stronghold 1 is already underway. And, of course, nothing's done till it's done, but we have hired a very big name artist to work on this book.
Cool. They
will be doing the flashback sequences and the cover of issue 1, hopefully. They called me on the phone the other day, like out of the blue, and I almost dropped my phone in the middle of the parking lot I was in because I was like, oh, holy cow, this person literally just called me. One of my heroes just called me on the phone.
One of your heroes, so a 90s artist.
I believe this person, they're still working today.
Okay. Would they be working for
Marvel DC?
Oh, Lordy. Yeah. Would we know the character that they normally work on? Or?
I'm not, I'll tell you off air.
Cool.
Well, let's just say I have comics all over my walls, and from where I'm standing, I can see 2 big ones with their name on it. So
damn, son. Nice.
So yeah, we're excited about that. Again, nothing's done till it's done, but we've agreed to terms, and like I said, they called me, said they were excited about it. And
so how did that come about? Are they a fan of your work then, or did you meet them at a con, or how did that happen?
Yeah, I met them at a con. We became Facebook friends, and I pitched them the idea at the con.
Yeah.
And now here we are. It's been a while back now.
Yes.
We had, as life goes, I got a little behind on it, but we did 6 pages of this comic book, the Cocaine Stripper Stronghold 1. And I was pitching it to comic companies and stuff, bigger than myself, just to see. But nobody reached back, so I was like, cool, I'll just do it myself, which is fine. I'm more than happy to do that. But I talked to them about it. I sent them the pitch with the pages, and, they called me, and they were like, pretty much said, I don't take every job that gets offered to me. I only do the ones I like. And they were like, I really like this art. The story seems fun. I'm in. So
how cool
that
is
was
that?
really cool.
That I sincerely congratulate you for that. Kudos, because that is a great benchmark, isn't it? That's confirming that you're on the right path, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those things, it's not like a hard goal to work with your heroes, but I mean, definitely a goal because, you know, to get to talk to them about the creative process and learn from them, as well as in this case, have this person take the ideas from my head and put it on paper. And now I'm suddenly connected to this world that I've loved my entire life, you know, in one way or the other. So it's, you know, again, I don't count my chickens before they're hatched, but it seems like it's pretty done deal.
Well, look, I exactly know what you mean because I ended up working with Katie Lee and Vic Mignogna, and Katie Lee voiced, like, one of the Gen Z voice actors in the same production. I mentioned those two, and she was instantly like, oh my God, that's Broly and so-and-so from My Little Pony, like, names of names. And, yeah, I mean, my pissant little animation, it's won some awards, but it's nothing, nowhere. It's got, you know, gone into the void already, gone to God already. I'm sure yours is going to do way better. But the point is, when you get a name of names, like this guy for you,
yeah,
it makes a big difference in your life, I found. It's just, I don't know whether you've got anybody negative around you. I'm lucky I really don't at the moment. But there's always the brother-in-law accountant or the, you know, somebody going, I don't know why you waste your time on this, to be honest, kind of thing. And then there's a voice inside each of us, sometimes a negative voice doing the same thing, like, what the fuck am I doing? And then you get a real achievement like this guy coming to you, and instead of him going, the main thing is you tried your best, but nah, hell no. Instead of that, he's saying, oh yeah, this is cool. Like, I don't have to accept work anywhere, but I'm doing this one. And then you can kick back a little bit, can't you, with your favourite smoke or drink or whatever, and just go, yeah, I fucking I just went up another fucking step. I went up a power level here. Maybe I didn't go up 100 power levels, but I for real went up a power level today.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. And I'm
legit.
really excited about this next comic. And I'm really excited about the one we're doing now. It's really good. Turkey Sharks is it's such a fun comic.
It sounds it. It really does sound it.
The people, yeah, like I said, you know, I do a lot of cons and stuff, and that's where I do most of my sales. And I get return customers all the time. I had a guy at the last con, you know, he walked up. I didn't even have to give him a pitch. He grabbed like 6 books and gave me a tip on top of it. Whoa. And, you know, I knew I had talked to him when he walked up. I was like, I've talked to you before. He's like, yep, you have. He just grabbed a bunch of books, tossed me a large bill and said, all right, see you at the next one. So
cool. So before we wrap up, and I bid you adieu until next time, because there's going to be a next time, because I think you're very cool and you're doing cool stuff. Any advice for people who want to scratch the itch of indie writing and publishing?
Yeah, I mean, I have all the advice. It's, you know, any type of artist, it's hard. And you have to realize, too, I mean, if you just want to make it and not do anything with it, that's totally fine. But if you're making it and you want it out in the world, the first thing I tell people is you better get thick skin and you better get it quick, because you're going to get told no a lot of times. And it's not a reflection on you or your work necessarily. Sometimes it may be. But, you know, people aren't apt to just go out and find things. Typically, things have to find them. And that's what you're doing. You're finding your people, finding the people that will enjoy your work. So you're, you know, even me, like I said, I'm successful when I do cons and stuff. But my closing rate, like at a good con, might be 70%. At a not so good con, it's going to be down around 30 to 40% or even less. So
okay, so just let me interrupt you there. So closing rate for people who don't know is what?
You know, if I can get somebody over to my table, how many out of 10 are going to buy something? Pretty much.
And how
do you 10 people?
How do you close when people come up? Like, I wander up at a con and I'm looking at your stuff, I'm picking it up, putting it down. What's next? How do you stop me? How do you stop me from walking off?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's hard because I have a lot of things now. Okay, so when I first started, I only had a couple things. You know, I had one comic, I had one children's book, and I had one dark comedy about suicide. So if they weren't interested in any of that, you know, they were going to walk away. So now I'm 9 years into this. I have a whole table full of different things. Pretty much I find out what they like and I sell them that thing. You know what I mean?
Do you deliberately do you deliberately expand your range to make it more versatile for sales, or do you just write whatever comes to you? And it just so happens that's expanded the range.
Yeah. Yes and no. I notice, for instance, I talked about hopefully I'm signing a manga team.
Yeah.
I don't have any manga. I get asked about it all the time. So when this team came to me, I said, I'd love to have your book. So hopefully we'll be doing that. But there have been times, like, I haven't written anything fantasy necessarily, like Lord of the Rings style.
Yeah.
So in one of my last novels, I wrote, it deals with dreams and stuff, so I can do anything in those books. I wrote a whole sequence with Pegasuses flying and fighting giant snakes and all this stuff and goblins and everything. So I incorporate that kind of stuff. I'm not going to do something just to do it. I have to have a good idea for it first. But I keep note of what I don't have on my table or what I might need more of. Yeah.
So are you a real pop culture consumer maven yourself, or are you more, you're in your own lane, you got your own views, and like if inline skating makes a big comeback, are you going to really dedicate yourself to trying to come up with a good inline skating story, or are you going to be more like, no, I'm cool with what I got. If I come up with something, I'll do it. If not, so be it. Like, do you really chase trends or not?
No, I wouldn't say I chase trends. Yeah, it's more about, the ideas that come to me. Like, I have, for instance, I've not well, let me see, not the next novel I'm going to write, but the one after that is an idea I had like 15 years ago that I'm finally gonna do. And like the romantic comedy, I just had an idea for it one day. So it's not, I'm not trying to like find these places, but it's wherever my mind goes, kind of.
Okay.
I don't have a whole lot of horror, but I have some, and only because I had the idea for it. And if I have an idea and it's a good idea, then I'll roll with it. Luckily, I own the company, so any idea I have gets greenlit automatically.
Yeah. But really, I think when you're a self-publisher, you've earned the right to do that. You've just got to guard against unwarranted egotism where, like, I'm just going to publish it, and if people don't like it, then that's their problem. They've got something wrong with them because they're not getting it. I think with all forms of commercial art, you've got to accept it's art, but it is commercial. If it's not finding a market, I think you need to pause and reflect. Doesn't mean you stop publishing, but you got to be real, like, okay, this is not landing, but I really want to do it. So I'm going to have to accept maybe the sales are not going to be great for this, but I want to scratch that itch. So I'm doing it anyway. And maybe in the future, maybe things will change.
Yeah, I have 2 books of short stories and poems. I love them. I love every word in them, but they don't sell that much. I want to do a 3rd one. I will do the 3rd one at some point, but when I'm out of ideas, you know what I mean? Because they don't sell that much.
Yeah.
So it's just one of the things. But, and there's also 2 trains of thought, too. I mentioned, like, my buddy from Lone Wolf Comics. His comics are werewolf stuff. That's pretty much all he does, but he does it amazingly. He's amazing at it. So he does that one thing really, really, really well. As where I'm kind of at the train of thought that do a bunch of things pretty good. So not to say that all of my stuff isn't awesome. I love all my stuff. But I expand what I'm doing because, I want to get Cutthroat Comics in the hands of as many people as I can. I'm building a brand.
Right.
So that's my thought.
On the topic of brands, do you trademark a lot of stuff or you don't bother?
You don't really have to, from what I understand. As long as you're using it, you don't necessarily exactly have to, because if somebody were to try to steal it, I can be like, look, I've been using this since 2009 or whatever.
So you could, in other words, legally, you could register a defensive trademark because of prohibited use. Yeah, it's just
I did. Some of my stuff is. I went ahead and did some of it, but not all of it. It's just one of those things. Like you can pretty much say like, this is mine. I've been using it. Here's the date this was published or whatever. Like, see, I had it first.
Yeah. And have you ever courted movie or animation production, or is it something you want to do yourself? Or
I would love to do that. It's just one of those things, if somebody approaches me with an idea, they're able to do it and we can come to an agreement, then sweet, let's do it. You know, as long as the idea is good.
But
in
but
my
you're
contracts and stuff.
but you're not writing. You're not writing with other forms of media in mind. Like you're not sort of, or are you?
I've had people tell me that when they read my novels specifically, they see it in movie form.
Cool.
Which I take as a compliment.
Oh yeah.
So because I watch a lot of movies. That's like my big thing.
Cool.
So I probably have a style where I write, you know, like a movie would be. Kind of, obviously, I don't write a script, but I think about the scenes in that way. Like even when I'm writing a scene, I think about the cinematography of the scene and all that. So yeah, I mean, we'll see. Hopefully, one of these days that'd be awesome. Cool. I always tell people if some movie person came along and said, "Hey, we'll give you X amount for this franchise," I would sell it right away. That way, I could quit my job and then do this full time, and then I've got the rest of my life to come up with other ideas to sell. So, you know, I'd give away one.
It sounds to me like overall you're on the right track. Like you're doing things in a professional and serious way and still having fun. So I think that's awesome. Anyway, today I've been talking to Josh Nealis from Cutthroat Comics. The streaming didn't work the way I wanted it to. Surprise, surprise. So this is an audio recording. The visuals are all taken from Josh's work, from his publishing house, and the links in the description to all the current stuff, including the Kickstarter. Josh, thank you so much for speaking with me today, and I hope we talk again soon.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. It was fun.
Cool. See ya.